This is the Energizing India podcast.
In Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Independence Day address to the country, he reiterated the government's support, making India a global green hydrogen hub through the National Green Hydrogen Mission. Within a year and a half of this mission coming to life, the humble hydrogen molecule has become a central fixture for energy developers, investors, policymakers, and industry alike. The introduction of production-linked incentives with considerable capital outlay for electrolyzer manufacturers and green hydrogen and green ammonia developers creates confidence in our country being able to meet its green hydrogen production targets. However, there remains anxiety amongst these developers of hydrogen and ammonia regarding the demand and uptake for their product. Today, we have with us Shardul KULKARNI, MD and CEO of Disha Power. Shardul is a seasoned energy professional with 20 years of experience in power and renewable energy. Spanning his career, Shardul has supported investments of over $1 billion in energy transition projects in Southeast Asia and Western Africa. But here, in the green hydrogen Indian community, we fondly call him the Hydrogen Wala, our friendly neighborhood hydrogen enthusiast who's always keen to spread awareness and education on the immense potential of the humble hydrogen molecule. Welcome, Shardul, to Energizing India.
Thank you, Priyanka, for the nice introduction.
I think one misconception amongst the hydrogen enthusiasts or energy enthusiasts is they end up comparing hydrogen to EV, as hydrogen is a fuel or a fuel alternative or a fuel carrier. But I think those who are working more closely in the field are aware that the major application for hydrogen is actually just replacing the grey hydrogen with the green hydrogen. It's in the industrial applications itself. And your timely contribution right now has been the white paper you've just released in the presence of Minister Gadkari ji, the white paper on green hydrogen-led decarbonization for bottom-of-pyramid Indian hydrogen industry. So, of course, it's the industrial deep dive on the applications of hydrogen. But before we kickstart on that, could you just show us a little bit about what is the pyramid analysis of an industry?
So the pyramid, if you look at Priyanka, the top pyramid is occupied by, let's say, 88% of that pyramid. If you visualize, it is occupied by two sectors, refineries and fertilizers, roughly more or less equal. In quantity terms, about 3.1 MMTPA worth of hydrogen consumption is happening as we speak in these two sectors only. And what we refer to the bottom of pyramid is about roughly between 800 KTPA to 900 KTPA worth of hydrogen consumption happening in plethora of industries, including chemical, steel, pharma, glass, semiconductors, food processing, and we are surrounded by actually the hydrogen applications. Although they are small in consumption, but without that, my process is incomplete. So that's the beauty about the bottom of the pyramid sectors. And in fact, we strongly believe for green hydrogen to kickstart in India, while we definitely need large scale projects, but the quick wins are possible in the bottom of the pyramid. And already two quick wins have already happened as we speak. Financing has been done and also contracting has been done, and there is a commercial operation, one in steel sector and another one is the semiconductor sector. So already we have small megawatts already operational.
Right. And before we, dive deeper into these more, daily items we all come across in the bottom of the pyramid, which have hydrogen in their supply chain somewhere in their production, I wanted to discuss with you the major trends in the top two tiers.
Just to give you a sense around refinery, there are two things which I am observing and which will drive the hydrogen consumption in refinery. First is the issue of the deep sea crude, which we call SAR crude. Deep sea crude is characterized with very high sulfur content, and as you know, sulfur emission is prohibitive and it is increasingly becoming a regulatory feature. Bharat 6 norms or any Euro 4 norms, they are highly discouraging sulfur. So the entire usage of hydrogen is in the refinery, I would say majority is towards sulfur removal first as a environmental compliance measure, number one. So that is going to go up because whatever crude available on the land, we are more or less done with that. We have only now the crude, which is deep sea crude, number one. And number two, what is happening interestingly is that refineries are becoming complex in nature. When I say complex, they are producing complex molecules. And like C, H is also a building molecule. So more the complexity of the underlying refinery, more is the hydrogen usage. So I see, apart from the general trend, even if like country like us, we have to grow, these two factors are adding a delta to the hydrogen consumption in refineries. As far as fertilizer goes, it's a country like us is like a perennially agricultural country, and the demand for agricultural output, it's population driven. So if global food demand is increasing 1.5-2%, probably we are growing double of that in terms of the food demand. So that is something, another angle, that to improve the productivity and yield, we are going to use a lot of ammonia based production. Why I say we use the word ammonia and the associated derivatives is one clan of the fertilizers, and the second clan of fertilizer is when you mix ammonia or react with ammonia with carbon dioxide and produce urea. That's the second clan of the fertilizer application. There is one thought process: can we only go ahead with the NH3 based DAP and all those fertilizers? So that's going to go up significantly, and people are discouraging use of carbon dioxide for urea making. Right now it's byproduct of the steam methane reformation process, so the things are easy. But tomorrow, when we are getting hydrogen from the green hydrogen source, so we don't have carbon dioxide, so better to go for the hydrogen ammonia based molecules as the fertilizer products. And that's one thought Western world is propagating. Even Japan and Eastern countries are propagating that. And for a country like us, next to the oil and gas subsidiary, urea is the biggest subsidiary. So we can actually control our urea subsidy if we concentrate on the ammonia based fertilizers. That is one corollary to our why we need. So these are the two things which I believe will drive hydrogen consumption in fertilizer sector.
Wonderful. So, as you know, we're talking about fertilizer and refineries. These are very large scale, deep pocketed industries who have the capacity to undertake massive investments to go for decarbonization and abating their carbon emissions. But when you talk about bottom of pyramid, these are essentially small, medium enterprises mostly with, mid-sized level businesses. So when it comes to the economics of replacing their grey hydrogen consumption with a premium green hydrogen, how does that play out?
Okay, so let me just give one common myth is that we start thinking at bottom of the pyramid hydrogen would be as equally cheap as the top of the pyramid, but that is not the case. In fact, the bottom of the pyramid hydrogen is characterized with the landed hydrogen price. That's what our primary research says, is anything between 4.5 to as high as I've seen a figure of almost I would say $12-13.
What?
Yeah, exactly. 2,500 rupees a kg is the obviously is that a very, I would say, premium 99.4 times 9 kind of application, hydrogen application in a pharma sector. So there you end up paying that much hydrogen price on a landed basis. So that is something which is the range of the pricing that we have seen. And green hydrogen definitely is competitive to the current landed price of the industry. And the two examples which I quoted earlier, in fact, they do not have any policy support, no subsidy, nothing. They are standalone commercially viable projects because they are saving 10%, 15% current cost of the hydrogen for the end consumer. So the payback for that plant is happening through the savings in the hydrogen contracting.
Wow, wonderful. I think that would clear the misconception many of us have that like green hydrogen is always more expensive for everyone. Right? And I think the BOP industries, like you've mentioned, are our foot soldiers, paving the way forward. And it's great to know that it's not only helping them abate their carbon footprint, but it's also an economical option for them, which will result to some amount of savings.
Yes.
And leads the path forward of learning for larger industries. So when you want to scale up, you have that. Yeah.
So you have the reference point, electrolyzer. At what loading I should run? To give that electrolyzer power, what should be my best technology? What kind of changes I need to do in the AC/DC circuitry? So all those things, unless you operate on the ground, those valuable learnings won't come. And hence the beauty of these small plants, it will give us a valuable learnings, and we will optimize for ultimate dream of $1 per kg, which our Guru always talks about is Shri Mashelkarji. He don't say, he uses the word pole vaulting, not leapfrogging. So we have to pole vault. And the underlying economic compulsions are very large. 80% of our sort of a liquid fuel requirements coming outside, 60% of our gas comes from outside. We are dependent on that. So why not to make in India? If everything we want to make in India, why not we can make energy in India and become energy independent?
Correct. When you talk about independence and resilience, one more thought that comes to mind is for these smaller industries. Though they might be clustered in the same region, they haven't yet centralized their hydrogen supply.
Yes.
So is it a strategy of risk mitigation that they can apply?
Absolutely. Bang on spot. So what could happen is that after the first few wins, which are in situ hydrogen plants, we see a strong possibility of merchant hydrogen plants, not of, let's say, export scale, but let's say of tens of megawatt or 20s of megawatts, supplying to, let's say, 4 or 5 plants in that aggregated manner. And that could be eventual possibility, and policymakers are very seriously thinking around that. That's our kind of our interaction with them tells us that this is the line in which probably they would move.
Correct. And this, of course, paints a very rosy picture with lots of hope about, how it will not only support adoption of hydrogen, but also creation of hydrogen at a regional level. So hydrogen valleys would take off, regional hydrogen hubs would start growing. But of course, not without its own challenges. So, of course, there are, all kinds of challenges, mainly surrounding RE, for example, the availability of RE. So what are some other challenges the industry has reported back with in their attempts to do this kind of a mission?
The challenges are threefold in terms of the adoption of the in situ hydrogen production. The first being almost is the availability of renewable energy power on a round-the-clock basis at a given campus, where, let's say, where the local DISCOM may or may not give the NOC to source the power on a RTC basis. So that is one aspect, in spite of the fact that even if you tell them we want to make it green hydrogen, blah, 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 but on the ground, there is still a challenge to actually source this and get a NOC for that. Second is the landed price of this renewable energy power. So while, let's say, someone gives the NOC, but then comes all the losses, charges, open access charges, surcharges, that makes another ₹1.50 while it lands to the premise of an industrial activity. So if we can find the means to sort of make that RE power competitive, as in terms of landed basis, as close to the, let's say, generation busbar price of the renewable energy, that would help the industry at large to put up such in situ hydrogen plants. And the third and very peculiar issue, which are, let's say, most of these plants are connected to STU level. Not all plants have a flexibility to connect at the CTU level, which is central transmission utility level. At the STU level, if they are connected, then I need to apply to the local DISCOM saying that much megawatt of the electrolyzer I am putting up, please enhance my contract demand. And that contract demand in the progressive states, even we call in Maharashtra or Gujarat also, 500 crore per megawatt worth of contract demand is I need to pay if I have to just install so that adds to my cost of the hydrogen, and that sort of eats away the savings in the in situ hydrogen production significantly. And because we are fighting for every rupee of saving, that's going to a long battle.
And I think apart from the fact that they want to increase green hydrogen adoption, there's also the fact that a lot of these small medium industries, the products they are, the output comes under CBAM.
Correct.
And increasingly so as Europe expands the definition of CBAM.
So I'm glad that you raised that point. So we see three types of opportunities in the bottom of pyramid, and the drivers are the gaps in the present hydrogen sourcing. So most of the present hydrogen sourcing by bottom of the pyramid industry is kind of a spot in nature. When I say spot, I'm exposed to two kinds of risk. One is the availability risk. Whenever I want, I don't know whether I will get or not that day. And second is the pricing. That means I'm subject to variation. So I'm at the mercy of someone who will declare the pricing. So these are the risks in the spot. Second is what happens is many times the hydrogen source is there is only single hydrogen source. Okay, so economic options are not available. No one is sort of ready to commit hydrogen on a long-term basis. So we see these are some of the gaps for long-term economical hydrogen contracting in the bottom of the pyramid industries. Second is, as you rightly pointed out, the CBAM. Cross-border adjustment mechanism by Europe is putting a lot of pressure on the companies who are exporting to Europe. We are in talks with one glass company. The sheer reason for them considering the green hydrogen is their 85% of the exports happen to Europe. So
similarly with steel also, our steel giants are exporting so much to Europe.
So that is something which is that is the sole driver for them. Even if for them hydrogen is a scope 3 because it's a part of the supply, but still they are going for it because it will ultimately affect their calculation on the carbon, which otherwise they will have to buy the carbon at 85-90 euros in Europe. But rather than that, I put up the facility out here, that would become far cheaper. And the third is obviously the net zero movement. So which is net zero movement not only globally but in India, and a lot of Indian corporates going ahead and putting that pressure on their vendors. So those kind of a ecosystem or awareness is also contributing to greenification of bottom of pyramid hydrogen consumption.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think we've covered so much about the business opportunity that's deriving from hydrogen and business opportunities in hydrogen for the bottom of pyramid industries, apart from the large scale refineries and fertilizers. So I'm just thinking now all of this is requiring capacity enhancement. It's going to require new businesses to be set up, new plants coming up. So since you're the hydrogen wala and you've been in touch with almost every major player in the hydrogen space, including in the close corridors of policy, what are the kind of skills and future job requirements going to open in this space? Because a lot of the country's youth is very passionate about the energy transition and they want to see how they can participate in it. So how can they skill themselves, ready themselves for the future careers in this?
Yes, that's a very apt point that you have raised, is that in fact having a good engineer, having experience in this so-called electrolyzers or so-called all the value chain of the hydrogen, very difficult to find. So those who want to sort of make career in the hydrogen, this could be. Right now, there is no dedicated, let's say, hydrogen course, okay, which I have come across so far. My alma mater, Narsi Monji, had asked me some time back, can we sort of design a course around that? Yes, that's a work in progress. But having said that, would be sort of very happy to contribute in the future in sort of a development of a specialized course needing the industry demands, and then we need that capacity. Without that, we won't be able to, like we did in the software. We churned the software engineers for the entire globe. Similar, 20 years back, everyone wants to do software. I can see the enthusiasm now. Everyone wants to do hydrogen.
This is going to be a future country of, policy enthusiasts, energy enthusiasts, and absolute masterminds in startups and technologies which bring efficiency.
Yeah, and this is going to be, while we become energy independent, we will also provide energy for the globe. So that's the path I'm seeing for ourselves. And those who, history says that those who sort of control energy economy are the actual controlling the global economy.
So that's what we're looking forward for hydrogen to become, an equalizing molecule which brings everybody at par and helps India take, leapfrog ahead in this pole vault ahead.
Pole vault, yeah. In Mr. Dr. Mashelkar's word, pole vault. That's a word we should.
Yes. So on the pole of hydrogen, hopefully we can vault ahead of the others.
Exactly.
But just to, we place a silly but frivolous but important question to our, guest at the end of each podcast. And it actually has a lot of insights which come out of it. So I'll place the same question to you. Is that if you were Prime Minister of India for a day, what is one policy change or initiative you would implement which would affect the, faster proliferation of green hydrogen in India?
I would say, if I had to prioritize one thing of among the various angle, I would start pricing carbon and let the market respond to that. Right now, the entire mismatch is happening because we are not pricing carbon.
That's right. And I think increasingly so, whether due to internal reasons or external trade reasons, we are going to have to start.
Exactly.
That's the way forward.
That's the way forward. I would put my energy to price whatever maybe. It may not be as high as Europe, but I would definitely, and I'm glad that CCTS scheme is going to start very soon and all that which is happening. But if I have to put my blood, sweat, everything behind it, I would start pricing carbon.
It's the one-stop solution to all of our environment.
Yeah, because it's at the end of the day, it's stupid, it's economics. So moment you start saying that, okay, this is the hydrogen and this is the carbon. So you now compare.
Bridge the gap now.
Bridge the gap.
Correct. Wonderful, sir. It's been amazing having you on this podcast, especially immediately after the launch of a white paper. And we're looking forward to many such more research publications and do a deep dive on and spread the awareness to our hydrogen enthusiasts and our Energizing India community.